Hey Lakeway, just continuing my morning study, my personal study on my steps to Easter. And yesterday we read a passage of scripture out of John chapter 11 where Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. So here's step 2. And I'm starting verse 45, reading from the New International Version. It says, "Therefore many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did put their faith in him." So Jesus accomplished his goal. In that first part, Scripture tells us that the reason that Jesus waited and then raised Lazarus from the dead was in order to bring people to faith. And that happened there. Many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary had seen what Jesus did and put their faith in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Now, you got to wonder, any group, it's going to be a mixed group, and some of those Jews see Jesus do this incredible thing and they put their faith in him. And then others go to the Pharisees. So, for me, the first thing is, what was the motive? Why did they go to the Pharisees? And there could be a number of things going on here. Maybe they were believers. Maybe they thought, wow, this really is the Son of God. And someone needs to tell the Pharisees that this Jesus is who he says he is. So they go and tell the Pharisees, look, Jesus is doing these things. On the flip side of that, it could have been, there's that blasphemer again. He's doing these miracles, but it's not in the power of God. It's coming from Satan, and somebody needs to let the authorities know. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the Sanhedrin. "What are we accomplishing?" they asked. "Here's this man performing many miraculous signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." So they've got this ongoing battle with Jesus going on, and they feel like they're losing the battle. This guy's going around, he's healing people, he's performing miracles, and people are going to him. And if this continues, there was a genuine concern. If this continues, it's going to raise the ire of the Romans, who are our overseers at this point. And if it draws too much attention to the Jewish nation, they're going to come and they're going to wipe us all out. They're going to end this, take away both our place and our nation. They'll deal with the problem. Then one of them, named Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, spoke up. "You know nothing at all. You know nothing at all. You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than the whole nation perish." Now that's an interesting thing. What's going on in Caiaphas' mind there? Does he think that if Jesus continues on, the Romans will see it, single him out, and execute him? But no, there's something more sinister here. This begins the process of, if we kill Jesus, the Romans will see that we dealt with the problem. People will turn away from this Jesus, turn back to us. The Romans will be placated. Everything will be cool. He did not say this on his own, but as high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the Jewish nation. Kind of interesting, and not only for that nation, but also for the scattered children of God, to bring them together and make them one. So somehow Caiaphas had received some information, a revelation, that Jesus would die for the nation, would die for the Jewish people, and he would bring them together. Now Jesus himself had said, I didn't come to bring unity. In fact, I came and father against son, mother against daughter. There's going to be division because of me. But Caiaphas has received this. Jesus is going to die for the Jewish nation. But Caiaphas has not seen the real meaning of Jesus' sacrifice, which is so sad for him. He's the high priest. He is the religious representative of the Jewish people. He knows that Jesus is going to die for his people and has completely misinterpreted it. He did not say this on his own, but as high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the Jewish nation, and not only for that nation, but also for the scattered children of God, to bring them together and to make them one. So from that day on, they plotted to take his life. He's going to die for us. We'll do it. Therefore, Jesus no longer moved about publicly among the Jews. So somehow Jesus heard this. Some people went back to Jesus. "They're coming after you, man." Instead, he withdrew to a region near the desert, to a village called Ephraim, where he stayed with his disciples. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, many went up from the country to Jerusalem for their ceremonial cleansing before the Passover. They kept looking for Jesus. This is the Pharisees. They kept looking for Jesus. And as they stood in the temple area, they asked one another, what do you think? Isn't he coming to the feast at all? So they thought, okay, the Passover is a big deal. Everybody comes to Jerusalem. There's this period of time before the Passover where there's this ceremonial cleansing, so that when you go into the Passover, you're in a right relationship with God. And that's what's going on here, the ceremonial cleansing before the Passover. So they expect Jesus to be there. If he's this big religious leader, why isn't he here? But the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone found out where Jesus was, he should report it so that they might arrest him. They have a goon squad going through Jerusalem, and they're after Jesus. Well, I'm not going to go into the next part here, beginning chapter 12. That'll be the next step. So, hope you enjoy this. Talk to you later, y'all.